Welcome back. We're on page 7 of the outline, and we're about the middle of the page. Brokers and dealers. We're going to talk about how brokers operate, how dealers operate, and then some of the market terminology. Starting out, brokers are agents, and they work for others on behalf of others. They charge commissions. They don't carry inventory themselves. Dealers, on the other hand, are principals. They carry inventory, and then they charge markups and markdowns. First of all, let's get the difference between the two, okay? And sometimes the best way to keep things straight is to go all the way out of the securities industry. If you buy a house, you're going to do business with a real estate broker. Now, that broker doesn't own the house that you want to buy. When you sell your house, that broker doesn't buy your house. I mean, it's possible, but they have certain disclosures that they have to make in case they do. But typically what they do is they're matchmakers. They take a buyer, they find a seller, boom, they match them up, and then they get paid a commission for that. They never own the property. Well, it's the same way with securities. If you have a broker, they'll find a buyer, they'll find a seller, boom, they'll match them up. They'll never own that security. They'll get paid a commission. But if you go to buy a car, where do you go? You go to the automobile dealer who says, we're going to mark down the ones that have been in inventory the longest. You'll get a rebate, but you've got to take it out of dealer stock, the stuff that we own. Okay? And what do? They say, we'll sell this for $5 over invoice. Why did they get an invoice? Because they bought the darn thing. They made it their own. They own it. Okay? And then you buy out of their inventory. So same way with a securities dealer. I'm going to buy this in a principal transaction from inventory from my securities dealer. Where did he get it? Don't know. How much he paid for it? Really don't know. Is he making money or losing money on it? Well, probably one or the other, but I don't know. Okay. So anyway, that's dealers, brokers and dealers. Say agents and principals, commissions and markups. Those terms all match together with their appropriate group. With regard to inventory, long means I got it, short means I ain't got it and I sold it anyway. Okay, now speaking of vehicles, don't try this with your neighbor's car. Hey Bob, let me borrow your car. You want to buy a car? That doesn't work, okay? But you can do it with securities because securities are so interchangeable. And so you actually can go to a negative quantity in inventory that's being short. All right, so long you got it, short you have negative inventory. And then a market maker is a generic term for a business that maintains a secondary market in a security. So broker-dealers, in order to trade, for instance, to trade over-the-counter stock, NASDAQ stocks, they have to pledge to maintain some inventory in a wide array of stocks. That's where you get the liquidity. Nobody can cherry pick. You've got to take some of the junk with some of the good stuff. And it's just NASD or NASD rules. So anyway, some of the terms we've already talked about the bid, the ask or offer. Those two are interchangeable. We talked about the spread. I bid because I want to buy something just at an auction. I have something, I offer it for sale. I have an asking price. And so it goes with buyers and sellers respectively. And the difference between the two is the spread. Now, if I have something that is very actively traded, there's good liquidity in it, and I'm going to have a very thin spread. But if I have something that's not actively traded, it's very speculative. There's all kinds of reasons why the less activity that you have, the wider your spread is going to be. And the more that remember, it's just like a retail store. I buy it retail. If I want to take it back to them, sell it, I sell it back at wholesale. So I have to pay that asking price, but I only get the bid when I sell it back. Well, what happens if I buy it here? I buy it right here, then in order to break even, this thing has to come up to where my bid price now, okay, has to be there. If I've got a spread this big, there's a $2 spread on a $5 stock, oh my gosh, that thing's got to come up 40% before I can even break even. So like I say, those are your spreads. Difference between the two, a lot having to do with the liquidity, the activity in the marketplace. The trade date, read it backwards, it's the date that we actually say, I'll take it, great, you can have it. Okay? And then you've got settlement date. Settlement date is the date that we actually, the exchange actually takes place. The money goes one way, the stuff goes the other. All right? And that is trade date plus 3 is regular way for most securities. Trade date plus 1 for treasuries. Doubt seriously that you're going to have to remember that it's trade plus 1 for treasuries, but like I say, treasuries, they're so active that they can, the Federal Reserve Board can say, tomorrow, business tomorrow, we're going to make that swap. And then cash trades, all right, cash transactions will settle on the trade date, so that's like T plus 0. So let's just go ahead and kind of plot these out, because you may have a couple of questions, okay? You got just regular corporate and municipal securities. You have T plus 3. Treasuries. T plus 1. Cash transactions. T plus 0 or T0 DAY. That's when that's going to settle. Okay. Let's see. It applies to the marketplace trades as opposed to new issue subscriptions. Now, the reason I throw that in is that there's a lot of detailed explanation that really won't concern you on the Series 6, okay? But when I buy mutual fund shares, I don't really buy them. I actually subscribe to brand new shares. And so as a result of that, the board of directors is going to say, and they're going to put it in the prospectus, look, the day that you say, I'll take it, is also the day that your money's going to be due and the day that you'll become a shareholder of record. Because it's a new issue. We can do what we want to with it, as long as we disclose it. Okay? So anyway, there's that. Now, the thing is that that good delivery is a term, again, just being familiar with it. Probably the most likely question you're going to see on this has to do with one of those first 2 bullet points underneath it, that a mutilated certificate, you cannot make good delivery with a mutilated certificate. There are ways to get around it. If the transfer agent acknowledges it, says it's okay, gives you a letter to attach to it, something like that, or the issuer can do the same thing. I heard one person say, yeah, one of my customers inadvertently took a stock certificate and ran it through the shredder. Fortunately, it was a ribbon shredder, and so they took a big piece of like contact paper and did like so, and got it back together, and they accepted it. Because it was all there, you could tell. But typically, a mutilated security, now you can't make good delivery with that. It has to be properly signed by all parties, the way that the name is drawn. All right, so I never sign my middle name. When I sign a stock certificate, it looks bad on the middle name. So in any event, you have to do it though. And then the correct number of units, which again, for the Series 6, you probably won't need to know much more than that. Now, the thing is that you have settlement dates which are established by the exchanges, okay? And by exchanges, I take that broadly to mean FINRA as well, okay? Just over-the-counter transactions. But then you have Regulation T. Regulation T is the Federal Reserve Board. And when does the Federal Reserve Board say that you have to pay for or deliver? Well, it's going to be this plus 2. Now, there's not a broker-dealer in the world that will do a cash transaction for you and then give you 2 days to either deliver or pay. Okay? So we can actually take this one out of the loop because, like I said, that's kind of not going to happen. Okay? But there's 2 extra days beyond the settlement date. Settlement date is broker-dealer to broker-dealer. Okay? So what I've got is, here's my sell side, here's my buy side, and these broker-dealers, on these days, this is going to happen. But here's my seller, there's the stock certificate, there's my buyer, there's the money, and they actually have 2 extra days to deliver to their respective broker-dealers. Yeah. You say, well, that leaves the broker-dealers out hanging in the breeze for 2 days. But yeah, they're big boys, they knew what they were getting into. Don't feel sorry for them. Okay? What happens, though, if I don't send in the cash or I don't send in the stock? Then what happens is that, I've got it in a different section here, I need to move that. But my account becomes frozen, and like I said, we'll talk about that. I believe it's in Module 6 someplace, so we'll pick that up when we hit it on the outline. But my account becomes frozen, and there are certain questions you'll need to know about that. So we'll cover that when we get to it. Okay, but Reg T settlement date is my settlement date plus 2. All right, then other dates regarding payments of dividends, and what I want you to do is remember the DERP, all right? DERP. Let's see. With dividends, we can expect a reduction in price, right? Yeah, because if I have, here, this phone is worth 105 bucks. It's fair price for it, okay? The thing is, I take this $5 bill and I strip it out. Now how much is the phone worth? 100 bucks. I've reduced this value by that much. That's what you do with the dividend. Anytime that you strip that value out, this is worth that much less than it was before. So with dividends, we can expect a reduction in price by the amount of the dividend that's paid. So that it's a nice little acronym that we can remember what these dates are. The D stands for the declaration date. There ain't nothing happening until the board of directors says so. Board of directors says, we're going to pay a dividend. What day is it? That's my declaration date. All right. Then E is the next one in the sequence, the ExDividend date. X means used to be, ain't no more. So on the ExDividend date, if I buy it, I used to be entitled to the dividend, but I ain't no more. Why? I waited too long. But what do? I pay the lower price for it so that it's fair to everybody. Okay? So that's the day that I'm no longer entitled to it. On the record date minus 2 days, but for investment companies, it's the date that's stated by the board. And typically, because of the fact that, and we'll go through this on the board, the whiteboard up here in a second. Typically, because I subscribe, I'm a shareholder, then it's typically the day after the record date. See, there are 2 kinds of people in the world. There are the people who get the dividend, and there are people who don't. Well, how do I know which list you're on? My transfer agent will keep a list of shareholders, and on this day, when we get through making all the changes we're going to make, boom, we close the books, we print 2 copies this time, one for the file, one so we can pay dividends off of it. And the rest of the world is out of luck. So basically, if I wait too long, I'm not going to get my name on that going to get it list. All right, and that's, like I said, that's my record date, is when they close up that list. Print 2 copies. One of them gets it, the other goes to the file, like normal. And then the payment date, the date that they actually cut the check. So here, let's look at this, because you'll probably have to calculate the ExDividend date, or see whether or not a customer gets a dividend. Okay, this is, there we go, 1, 2, there we go. You draw 4 lines and 1 across, and you got 2 weeks. Okay. So basically what we have is that, let's say that this is the record date, okay? Whatever day that is. And you can just put numbers in the boxes if you want to, get as fancy as you want to. Well, now let's see. If I'm going to start up here, okay? If I buy it here on Monday, then trade date +1 +2, I'm going to own it right here, and I'll be a shareholder of record right there. Well, that's way before the ex-dividend date. In fact, if I buy it here, There's plus 1, plus 2, okay. Even I have to catch myself sometimes, okay? I'm thinking minus 2 is plus 3, okay? Okay, so if I buy it here, there we go. I thought, man, that doesn't look right, okay? There we go. We'll even erase that, okay? There's plus 1. There's plus 2. There's plus 3. The transfer agent writes my name on the list, and at the close of business that day, guess whose name is there? Me. But if I wait to buy it until right here, then here's plus 1, here's plus 2, here's plus 3, and I'm out of luck because I waited too long. So I get it here, I don't get it if I wait until right there. That's record date minus 1 minus 2. Okay? And that's my ex-dividend date because I used to be entitled to it. See, I was entitled to it if I bought it here, but I ain't entitled to it no more. Now, let's complicate things a little bit. That Monday is a holiday. And the holidays that you'll see typically are like 4th of July and Christmas, because they're always on the same days. But be very aware of that, because they will throw them in. Well, guess what? This isn't a business day anymore. So all of these are going to move back by a day. Okay, so let me get my right colors going here. Okay, if I buy it now, if I buy it here, there's plus 1, plus 2, plus 3 right there, and I get it. Okay, but if I wait until the next day, and I buy it here, here's plus 1, plus 2, okay, that's still the same. So my X date moves back a day, like that. Be aware of holidays, okay? Now, what we were talking about mutual funds, those ex-dividend dates and those record dates, okay, those are declared by the board of directors. All right, so let's say that this is the record date. All right? Okay, if we have that as the record date, and the board of directors, as they typically do, says that you become a shareholder of record on the date of the subscription to the fund. If I buy it here, I've still got a day to spare. If I buy it here, I've made it by the skin of my teeth because I become a shareholder of record on that date, on the record date. But if I wait until here, I'm out of luck. I waited too long. So look at what it sets up. It sets up a situation where on mutual funds, the ex-dividend date is actually the day after the record date. Now, that's a very likely question. Okay? So anyway, like I say, those record date minus 2, that's for stocks, that's for bonds. Okay? But on mutual funds, like I say, you're looking at the date that's stated by the board, typically the day after the record date. And then, so record date, like I say, talked about it, the payment date, they actually cut the checks, and it can be a short time, a long time, doesn't really matter. It's just that, you know, if you're a shareholder of record, you're going to get the check because they've already printed that list, and that's not going to change. And then stock and bond quotations, you know, they'll show the price of it, closing price. Your most likely question, whether it's a stock, a bond, or a mutual fund, is going to be, what did it close at yesterday? What did it close at yesterday? So I've got the little phrase there, the little saying, different day, different way. That's what I want you to do, and just keep that in mind, all right? So here's my price quotation on XYZ or XYZ fund, whatever it is. It's $27.21, and it's plus 10 cents. Okay? That's what it closed at on Wednesday. What was the closing price on Tuesday? Well, let's see, what I do is I go different day, because I want to know Tuesday. I go different day, I go different way. I take my plus 10, I make it minus 10, and it closed at 27.11. So now let's just go ahead and set it up. Here's Tuesday. If it was 2711 and then it changed to 2721, that means it was up a dime. So if I go backwards, different day, different way. If it's plus, I go minus. If it's minus, I go plus. Okay? Very likely question on your test. Alrighty. So that brings us to the end of Module 5. Let's go ahead and then just take a little break, and we'll come back and we'll start talking about new issues and see if we can't get those knocked out.